So I'm going to continue something from the beginning of yesterday's show to prove to you guys that people really love and pay attention to the first minute or two of the show. Remember what I said yesterday? You probably don't.
Hell no, I don't remember what you said yesterday.
He didn't pay attention to the first minute of the show.
Well, that's fair. But I did say...
In my defense, the music's so loud in my ear, I can't hear you. So I really have to wait until the music dies so I can hear anybody.
Sorry for Party Rock. I'm not going to apologize for trying to make your life full of dance music. But I did say, welcome back. Do you remember I said, welcome back to the fans of non-contenders or teams they were pissed about, and then they weren't watching the playoffs. And the first comment on yesterday's episode from fans that watch after the fact, not live, was from someone named Ryan, who said, LOL, talking to me when he said, welcome back. Hard to take the end of the season for the D-backs. Took some time to process. Excited for the offseason. Can't wait to see how Hazen rebuilds after Walker, Peterson, and Grichuk exit. So, hello, Ryan. Thank you for watching.
Pete Alonso.
To Arizona?
I don't know.
Just trying to make
Anthony
Ryan...
Rizzo.
Okay, that's a big difference. We just went from Pete to Rizzo. But anyway, Ryan, we're here for you. We will talk Diamondbacks at some point. Probably not necessarily this show, but at some point in the offseason. We'll spend plenty of time on them. So let's charge the damn mound.
Charging the mound.
By the way, we talked Diamondbacks the other day. We talked about Jordan Montgomery opting in.
We did. Oh, we talk about them plenty. It's a good call. But we're going to talk about Shohei Ohtani for a moment because he's getting surgery. I mean, it's news. It's not like we're saying, oh, Shohei took decoy for a walk today. It's a real story here. Surgery to repair a torn labrum. That was the diagnosis after that sliding Game 2 of the World Series. He kept playing. Dodgers say he'll be ready for spring training. Anything to read into here? I mean, it is shoulder surgery for a guy who is going to pitch and hit next year. Do you think there are any concerns for the Dodgers?
Anytime you say shoulder surgery, it is a concern. But it's his left shoulder. He doesn't throw with it. I don't know. I think what Kratz just did, where you drive with your left shoulder as a pitcher, is a thing. Swinging, I don't think it'll affect him as much because, again, it's his back shoulder. So it's not when you get like Bellinger did when he got extended, and that's when it would be like, ow. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that hitting will affect you, but I think he's got plenty of time to get back. And I don't think they're in any rush to get him back on the mound anyways.
Will Carroll had said about it. That was his name, the guy we had on, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He had said he thought that it subluxed forward. So I don't know if that means – because he said, if it was bad enough, they had to go in there and tighten stuff up, which I'm assuming they're going in and tighten it up. But, like, the only move that you would go with your back shoulder would be swinging possibly, because you're ripping this way pitching. I don't feel like it would affect it, but I mean, just getting it tightened up is essentially what they're doing there, because it pulled out of the socket a little bit and then came back in. If they're tightening that up, then I think he probably should be good to go. But I joked in our text thread, maybe he just doesn't want to pitch. He's like, hitting was so much fun and I won a World Series. Why should I need to pitch too? So maybe he's trying to get a note from the doctor.
Somebody said that could be a possibility. That what if he doesn't want to pitch anymore? Somebody said that. And then what does it do to the value of the contract?
He wants to pitch.
Okay, but Kratz just said, what if this way? What if
but he's joking? You guys are just playful in your
I was not joking when I said, what if he doesn't want to pitch anymore? I wasn't joking at all. And you were like, you're an idiot.
No, I didn't say – I would never call you an idiot.
No, he said something like that.
Fine. But it's a good scenario to bring up, and I actually believe it in the long term. Is he going to pitch the entire length of that contract? Not necessarily, but is he going to pitch next year? Probably.
Okay.
Are you concerned that he won't pitch?
Well, I think he will, but I just said when he was going through his whole thing, I said, what happens if he wakes up one day and says, man, this is my second elbow surgery. I don't want to do this anymore. I can go 50-50 every year and win MVPs.
Is his contract worth it if he just hits? I say yes.
Yes. Yeah,
it's worth it. It's worth it in the fact that they won a World Series and they have a chance to win many more.
And he's by far the best DH in baseball. And if he's not pitching, then he's stealing 50-plus bags for several seasons. And again, I'm just putting it out there. He is planning to pitch. This is not the news, but I'm just saying he's worth it either way in my mind, Kratz. $2 million a year for a while? I think he's worth it. I mean, he's making less next season than Kyle Hendricks, who we'll get to later.
It's fine. Okay, I get it. He's making $2 million. his contract, $700 million, 465 present day value, whatever it is worth it. Is 100% worth it because they won a World Series. There's not one guy that you sign, unless you're the Pirates, unless you're the Rockies, that you're saying, this guy won't help us win a World Series. Like every single guy that you sign, you're pushing towards a World Series. So his contract is already worth it, let alone the fact that if he never pitches, if he comes back and he doesn't, there's always a chance. They knew his elbow was broken. And I get it. They're saying, wow, Tommy John surgery is super easy. Everyone comes back from it. Not the second one. Not a dude that is also playing is also hitting 4 times a game. Like they didn't have that certainty. They wouldn't have signed him to this contract if they didn't think it was worth it. And they already won a World Series. I don't think he needs to win 2 World Series to make this contract worth it. To me, today, contract already worth it.
Which is crazy because there's so much more time left on that deal.
I disagree.
You don't think it's worth it yet?
They need to win another one.
They didn't need to win 2?
I do, just because of how much this contract is actually, I mean.
So is Yamamoto's contract worth it then?
Because it's honestly, Yamamoto, yes. I think they'd like to win. I mean, you have Freddie, Mookie, Shohei, Yamamoto, Will Smith. They need to win another one to make them all worth it. Now listen, we're talking about 10 years, 700 for Shohei. It's actually 20 years that they're on the hook for.
Because of the deferrals.
Because of the deferrals.
But he's not playing those next 10 years.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why you need to win more than one.
Right.
It's actually 20 years, $700 million contract. And when he's done playing, when he's might not be playing anymore 9 years from now, and they owe him $68 million a year, guess what they're not getting? Endorsement deals, this and that. And
but they're getting it now. To me,
but you see what I'm saying? But this is really a 20-year, $700 million deal.
But you bank the money and then you let it grow in an account.
No, but what the Dodgers have done is they don't bank it. They sign other free agents. They go out and get Teoscar. They go out and get Yamamoto. Right? So, I mean, they're doing it. Listen, if I was in charge of the Dodgers and I had all the money in the world and I could get Shohei for 20 years, 700, and I could push it 9 years from now, who knows where I'm going to be?
Also,
let's friggin' do it, baby.
They know how to make money.
Of
the
course.
Group that owns the Dodgers,
listen, they made plenty of money.
That is a group that knows how to print money on trees. So they're just fine. All right, last question on this. Do you think the Dodgers need to sign a big starting pitcher, or do you think there's so many guys coming back that they're okay? You think they need a name like a Max Fried or Corbin Burns or Nate Eovaldi or go down the line?
I think they need a proven guy that can give them 25-plus starts.
Okay.
Because to me, Yamamoto hasn't proven he could do it. Shohei hasn't proven. I mean, he's done it, but again, these are 6-day rotation guys. So, I mean, what's Dustin May going to give him? What's Gonsolin going to give him? What's Kershaw going to give him? River Ryan going to give him? I'm going to run
Kyle Hurts coming back next year. There's so many guys.
I mean, there's so many guys. I'm going to run out of time.
Yeah.
But they need somebody that they can count on. I mean, Glasnow, he hasn't given them a full year, right? He's never given anybody a full 30 starts.
Sure.
So they need somebody that they can count on to take the ball every 5th day. Because to win the way they did this year, I know they have depth. I know they have money. It's almost impossible to do.
Kratz, you agree they need another starter?
I do. Exactly in the ilk of what AJ said. Like, it has to be somebody that you can not pencil in. You can pen in 30 starts because they don't have it. Kershaw's a 20 to 25 guy. Glasnow's been a 20 to 25 guy. These young guys, Gavin Stone, Bobby Miller, Gavin Stone's done for the season. I guess he had the shoulder surgery. But all these younger guys are unproven in the fact that they're going to give you 30-plus starts. So that is a super huge value to help your bullpen be better, to help you can't just have 8 starting pitchers and expect to find starts for all of them the whole time and they all stay healthy at the same time.
Yeah, but again, they're going to have a 6-man rotation at least next year. Because Shohei, we talked to Joe Madden. He managed Shohei. Shohei needs the 6-man, right? Yamamoto has always been in a 6-man until he can't.
Better for him.
And they've always tried to do that, right? And so who else? Glasnow, they're like, well, we can keep him healthy too if we go a 6-man.
They should have a 6-man front to back the whole year until obviously you figure out playoffs and maybe you push the guys a little bit, right?
Yeah, I agree. Well, they shouldn't, but they're going to.
Yeah. Kershaw,
he'd be better with 6, right?
Yes.
I mean, Dustin May, whatever they do with him, right? I mean, again, all these starting Gonsolin.
Yeah.
all of them. And if they sign somebody, a Flaherty or Fried, whoever they might go out and get, they're like, we can keep you healthier with a 6-man.
Also, can't you sit down with them and say, hey, listen, you're probably going to hit close to the amount of starts that you hit anyway, because we're going to be in the playoffs, and hopefully you'll get multiple starts in the playoffs anyway?
No, because those don't count the same.
Why don't they count the same?
It's just the way it works. Go to arbitration. They don't count the same.
I'm saying for free agents, though, not for the young guys.
Free agents don't count the same either.
Yeah, but if you sit down with a Max Fried and you say, listen, Max, we're going to be in a 6-man rotation. We want to sign you. You're going to end up with 27 starts instead of 32, but you'll get those extra 4 to 5. Plus, you've had an injury history. I think he's going to be like, cool, what's your offer? And let's do this if it ends up working out and they pay him the most.
It's way different for a free agent. You're not bringing a guy in. You're not bringing, Flaherty in to be like, hey, I'm on a 1-year deal. I need all my starts. I need to show I'm healthy. And then you come out and you're 25 to 27 starts. Then teams are like, well, he's not, maybe he can't handle the workload, or we don't want a 6-man rotation guy that we're signing. If you're signing a Max Fried, that's where Max Fried's ending his career, or at least ending his prime earning years. So I don't see anybody. I don't know. I don't see anybody complaining about that in the sense of like, ooh, I need my starts. I need to pitch every 5 days for my legacy. We don't have any pitchers out there right now that are like Hall of Fame ballot legacy guys.
Okay. Well, we can also ask our next guest about this, because we're going to talk pitching in depth with Lance Brozdowski, player development analyst, joining us on FT in 2 minutes. And before we get there, Dodgers territory, which did have Matt Kemp on an episode, and many of the other VIPs that have either been part of the Dodgers org or are currently part of the Dodgers org. Their Oral Hershiser interview was awesome. It is a must watch or listen. So get it wherever you get your pods, or check out their YouTube channel if you're a Dodgers fan. And even if you're not, Alana Rizzo and Clint Pasillas are superstars. Be right back on FT. Shout out to Manscaped for being a sponsor in this episode of Foul Territory. And make sure you get yourself a little 20% off and free shipping when you use the code FOUL20 at their website. So, Erik Kratz, what if you have this big problem and you're like, I only want to get one shaver, but sometimes I like to have a clean, Mr. Clean Erik Kratz shave, and sometimes I like to have a little bit of scruff action. What would you do? Would you maybe let them know about a particular electric foil shaver that happens to be called the Chairman Pro?
Chairman Pro. Look, I got a lot of square footage that I need to shave up. Look, you can even see I got it. It'll let you have a little stubble beard. You can get your edges. It lined me up right here. But if you want to go with the clean, completely clean shave, it'll take care of that. It'll shave your beard in, shave your head. Listen, AJ's good at a lot of things. This is something that I know AJ just doesn't have the square footage that I need to take care of here with this bald head. And the Chairman Pro is thebomb.com.
That's right. Kratz is our specialist there. He knows minor league teams, and he knows how to shave his bald head. So
2 things I'm proud I don't know much about.
Hey, everybody has their role.
Being bald in minor league baseball.
Sorry.
But I respect Kratz as a superstar
jealousy.
in that category. Right? That's our teammate.
Yeah.
He fits that role. Skin safe 4-blade foil is what it's called.
I mean, some of us have this to not shave.
Hey, join the over 11 million men
Valid.
worldwide who trust Manscaped, and use that code FOUL20 to experience a shave as smooth as you deserve. You get yourself free shipping plus 20% off at manscaped.com. Go get after it, FT fam, and we'll talk to Lance Brozdowski next in 30 seconds. TV analyst Lance Brozdowski joining us right now. Follow him on Twitter at Lance BROZ. Check out his YouTube channel. Great work breaking down pitching mechanics. Used to work at Driveline. Lance, great to see you. Happy off season. Excited to talk to you about a number of topics, but I do want to get right to business if we can, because I know you've been looking in depth at Roki Sasaki. We're getting a ton of questions from fans about him, of course, asking if he is going to sign and be able to break loose from NPB this year. But can you tell me what he would bring to the table?
Yeah, super electric arm. This dude is like kind of unbelievable. I think the central question, if you're a front office trying to figure out whether you actually want to add him to your roster for the coming season, is what happened from 23 to 24 in terms of his fastball shape and velocity dip. He was a guy that in 2023, as you see on the screen right now, he averaged like 99, sitting 99, which is just insane. And then he fell to 97. And now there's a lot of rumors around like, oh, he was just preserving his arm, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think I totally buy that without some biomechanical analysis that actually allows me to see that he's still moving as efficiently. And I just don't think we're obviously going to get that given that data is not really available. So if you're front office, you got to figure out exactly what happened to him from a movement pattern standpoint between 23 and 24 and whether you can get him back to 23. And I'm not even necessarily saying that from the pure velocity side. I think he could survive if he was more 97, 98, but the decline in his shape on that board you guys just showed is the biggest thing. The pitch became a little more two-plane, despite the fact that he was throwing from a very similar arm slot. So in my opinion, that means he's kind of hiking his arm and cutting the ball a little more. I want him not hiking his arm and not cutting the ball. I want him carrying that thing as much as possible, because one of his superpowers, so to speak, on the pitching side is the ability to throw really hard and create a ton of total movement on his fastball. And that's the big thing from an evaluation standpoint. I'm pretty confident front offices are digging into as to whether they want to sign him. Now, the other angle here is that if he's subject to the international restrictions, that he can kind of pick wherever he wants to go. So maybe this becomes the teams pitching to him as to what they can do for him. And I'm pretty fascinated to see kind of what the net result here is with Sasaki.
One thing that you showed when we showed those numbers is his release gained 9 inches. Okay. Now, the velo might be down, but his extension, the 9 inches of extension, that almost makes up for the velo as a hitter. Like if I look out there 99, he's releasing it farther away, and then I'm facing a guy throwing a little bit slower, but with a release closer to me. Doesn't that make up for some of this other stuff that's missing?
Yeah, that's like the perceived velocity angle I think you're talking about, AJ. I do think that has some implication on it, but I think overall, I don't have the board here, but if you were to look at the actual performance of the pitch, the swinging strike rate dropped a pretty good amount. There's a lot of little elements of the pitch that really started to regress, primarily because the shape of the pitch, I think, is one of the more important things there, that lost some vertical break, lost some of the arm side movement. It just wasn't as efficient of spin on that pitch that was allowing it to succeed. So although the extension kicked up, which I do agree from a perceived velocity standpoint might help a bit, the overall variables that I think matter more in that situation are the velo being down and the shape being different. And again, it's a little weird to have a big extension jump and not change release height. If you just think about the angle of like the further down the mound you are, which is sloped, naturally your release is going to drop. If that's not occurring, then to maintain the same release height despite extending down the mound, releasing from a further point, your arm's going to have to naturally kick up a bit. So that's the main thing that I'm curious about is like, what does the Major League front office think about how he was moving differently in 24? Do they like that better? Do they want to get him back to 23? These are the questions I think front offices are asking themselves.
You had said right at the end of your first evaluation of him, you said they're not sure if they're going to want to sign him. Everybody wants to sign this guy, right? I mean, they're not signing him for it's $55 million essentially going for the posting fee. Like that's a drop in the bucket for a guy that gave up 2 home runs. I get it. Japan doesn't have big power. He gave 2 home runs in 111 innings. Like they're going to go after him. So are we delving too much into these numbers in the sense like we're not giving him $300 million. We're not Yamamoto's not like, Yamamoto's taking him out for dinner when they play together with the Dodgers because it's essentially who's gonna sign him. But what is the hang up in the sense that like we're delving too far into the numbers? He's had success, and all the guys I talked to that have played there says he's actually better than Yamamoto, just less control.
I agree with that. I think he is a better pitcher than Yamamoto, especially if he flashes anything like he flashed in the WBC in 2023. I'm definitely getting past, like, we're getting deep in terms of talking about, like, the small little subtle changes as to, like, how he moved differently, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I do think any team is just probably offering their max international pool and is like, do you want to sign with us? And I feel like, again, it just goes back to Sasaki as like, hey, where do you want to sign, man? You can kind of pick wherever you want to go. And I think I'm talking about all these nuanced things because I do think different organizations have different aptitudes for fixing all these things, right? If you want to remove the whatever percent chance that's very high he goes to the Dodgers, which I do agree with you, is probably where he ends up. But let's say he doesn't end up there. Let's say he goes to like another random organization, like the Angels, for example, right? They probably need pitching. They can use velocity. They have history of signing Ohtani, etc. Like maybe he goes there. I'm not as confident in the Angels pitching brass to fix these various things that we're talking about. So maybe he underperforms relative to what we're talking about. But again, for the price, yeah, I mean, he's going to be like a plus value player. I'm the nerd here. Come on. I'm the guy digging into like the nuance of what's happening and how he moves and the shapes that are being different and maybe him not being as exceptional as 2023. But the overall package here is incredible. And I'm definitely knocking him on this fastball thing. But the split here is like one of my favorite splitters. It'll be one of the most distinct splitters probably in baseball the second he steps on a major league mound.
How worried are teams about his innings? His career high is 129. He's never gotten over 130 in his career. And at the big league level, we just talked about Shohei and Yamamoto and how the Dodgers are already going to have to go to a 6-man rotation, so he would fit in there. But how worried about big league teams about the fact that he's never thrown over 100? Forget like 200 innings. We're talking 130 innings. Last year, he threw 91 innings. This year, he threw 111 innings. Like, there is not a track record of making it, a start and getting to, God forbid, 150 innings even.
Yeah, this is a great question because I'd be curious, again, from like the standpoint of an organization looking at him. I'd want to figure out as much as I can about what his off-season throwing program looks like and what he's doing in season from like a conditioning and weightlifting standpoint, how much he's using weighted balls, etc. Like, this dude throws incredibly hard. Like, if he's not conditioning his body properly to be able to hold up sitting 99 over the course of like 150 plus innings, then like you got to change that. Like, that is a definite kind of more qualitative variable to play around with in terms of how confident you are and maybe pushing him to like 130 next year, etc. But and also too, like, the schedule in Japan is obviously different. This is something Shota Imanaga talked about a lot, and Yamamoto dealt with too, Senga dealt with too, like the different cadence of a season and pitching however often you want to, not however often you want to, but how different it is from NPB. But yeah, I mean, I think you got to dig into like what he's doing from a conditioning standpoint to get his arm in the proper spot to throw this hard. I'm not trying to bag the Chiba-Lotte Marines and stuff like that, but I don't know what he did, and we've seen a lot of guys now in baseball in the most recent years, Garrett Crochet, Justin Steele, etc. A couple guys make large leaps in terms of innings. And I think that's a byproduct of teams having a very good understanding of like what workload you need to put in the offseason in order to be able to hold up throwing incredibly hard over 150 plus innings.
Lance, how much do you think he's worth if he wasn't restricted by the current system, right? So let's say he's just a free agent right now. Does he command a similar deal to Yamamoto's $325 million and also the $51 million that they had to spend on the posting fee, talking about the Dodgers?
I do. I think he's worth more than that, honestly, just because of the underlying velocity and how prized that is in Major League Baseball. I just think he's a fascinating pitcher. Like, I think there's a lot you could do with him from a development standpoint. He doesn't really spin the ball that well. That's probably the one slight concern you have. You saw Yamamoto towards the middle of the year and into the playoffs start to break out a nasty sweeper up around like 2,800 RPM. That thing, I think, is going to be a weapon for him next year as he starts to expand usage of it. But with a guy like Sasaki was under 2,000 RPMs on his slider in this most recent season. Like, he's definitely more of like a weird fastball, super distinct splitter. I think a smart team would probably just push the velocity really, really high on a cutter slider pitch against righties to get him something going away. Maybe you flash a big curveball with him. You add a sinker if he's having problems with the four seam to righties. Like, there's definitely some development to do here. And I think that he's just, the velocity talent here is just unbelievable. And I think that would push him over whatever the dollar figure Yamamoto had, as you mentioned right there. So yeah, he's worth more than Yamamoto in my opinion.
Okay, Lance, let me ask you this. His arm action scares me a little bit from the tape we've shown. He's a hook. He's got, I can't really show you because of the
that inverted W action.
But he's got a bad hook and a bad W. I mean, does that also scare teams away? Because usually guys that have a hook, there's very few people that have a hook that last very long because it's really, really tough on not only your elbow, but also the hook is bad on your shoulder because you're late a lot of times, and that leads to shoulder problems.
Yeah. What I think you're getting at there is like one of the most basic things in pitching, which is like how is your arm up at front foot plant when that front foot starts to accept ground reaction force? Like, is your arm up? And he's a little, you could argue, maybe slightly late, but this gets into the whole angle like what information is actually available on him. I don't believe that most orgs in MLB would be able to get like a Kinetrax report and totally understand some of the biomech variables, rotation speed of his pelvis and torso and like how he's sending energy through his chain. A lot of this may end up just being more video scouting, or perhaps major league orgs have contacts. I'm not exactly sure what systems Chibalote has set up from a biomech standpoint. Like, I'd be fascinated to see if any org could get their hands on like specific data and figure out exactly what they want to do. But that shot right there you just showed, like, you could probably just send that to a really good pitching expert and get him to understand, like, maybe there's some things in the lower body they could tweak to get the arm action you're talking about, AJ, a little bit cleaner, so to speak. But maybe, as you're saying, that's related to some of this arm fatigue he had. It seems like he had. There's a quote that from the Chibalote, I believe it was translated, so I think maybe some of it is lost in translation, but they basically said that he missed a couple starts because of the poor condition of his right arm. To me, that just kind of sounds like he either had maybe slight dead arm or arm fatigue or something along those lines. But this is all connected in the same way, right? So this is why I don't totally believe that, he was preserving himself for MLB sitting 2 ticks lower. Like, I think there was something up there in his body or how he was moving or general arm health. The other angle here is that if you're a team projecting him out, like, you're probably building in some major arm surgery at some point in the next 5-ish years or whatever. Like, I guess it's a matter of whether that happens sooner rather than later. But I think we're past the point of just assuming, this guy's going to give me 170 innings each of the next 6 years. Like, I think teams build in risk of injury. Like, it's just become so common in these guys, especially when you throw this hard. If you pull like 2023 fastball velocity leaders and look at how many innings they threw in 24, I think the healthiest one was Hunter Green, and he hit the IL. You had multiple Tommy John surgeries. Like, this is just kind of the state of the game we're in. Like, if you throw hard, you're probably going to end up with some kind of internal brace TJ, and once every 6 years or however long they're projecting this stuff to last. So you're building that in. But again, going back to the monetary side that Scott was talking about, like, it's such a low dollar value off the bat that it probably doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like, maybe we're digging too much into the specifics here. Like, wherever he goes, like, it really comes down to how that team adjusts the various finite things that will make him better. But this isn't really like a monetary concern. Like, we're not debating how much he's going to get or how much he's worth, because like 30 teams are going to probably offer him whatever's left in their pool and figure it out from there.
You had mentioned it. You glazed over it real quickly. Yamamoto added some spin to his slider towards the end of the season. Did you happen to see how much ride and spin Walker Buehler added mysteriously after not striking anybody out? As a person who delves into the analytics and really understands those numbers, is that physically possible to do that without some help?
I see what you're getting at here. It's a very clever way of framing the question. I would say the big thing that I think sometimes we miss on like is this guy using some kind of sticky situation is like you have to look at spin relative to velocity. Like, as your velo jumps, your spin will go up. That, for me, if you just want to go off that variable with Walker, there wasn't anything that suggests he was using like a spider tack or something along those lines. The thing that is a weird variable here is like, if you look at the 2 New York starts he had, specifically that one at Citi Field, the cold and the wind were particularly odd there. And I do think that has a pretty large impact on shape. Like, if you look at that New York start of his, he was averaging like 20 inches of vertical break on his fastball, which is something he hadn't done since like 2021. I would bet that the environment had a large implication on things there. I'm actually putting together a video on this that will drop on my YouTube in the next couple of days, specifically in relation to Walker Buehler and whether his fastball will be sticky next year. Like, towards the end of the year, he seemed to have some slight adjustments, and that seemed to make him better. But I'm not totally convinced that those are going to stick, specifically because I think when it's colder, what you run into is less moisture in the air and very sciencey weird stuff like that creates more drag on the ball, and therefore pitches move more. But it also kills batted ball distance. So this is like a double negative for hitters, which is often why we see run environments in the postseason drop a bit. But I don't think he was using anything. I'm pretty confident in saying that, unless it was just some sunscreen rosin, et cetera, like, which for the most part, like, I think everyone's probably using, and it's not that big of a deal. But my bet is that he does not maintain this like crazy 18, 19 inches of vert that he was flashing in the postseason into next year. And I think that changes his market a bit as well.
Okay, so you mentioned that Shane Bieber and Nick Martinez are 2 of your most undervalued free agents. Well, apparently the Reds don't think Nick Martinez is that undervalued because he got a qualifying offer from him, right? So, I mean, is he really that undervalued, or you think he's undervalued from a outside of his own organizational standpoint? Because if you get the qualifying offer, that means you're pretty valued. Walker Buehler didn't get a qualifying offer, and I know Shane Bieber's coming off elbow surgery, so he obviously didn't get one. But it seems to me like, and we had was it Ken on yesterday that we talked qualifying offers. He said that Martinez and who was it?
Pivetta.
And Pivetta were the two that he was kind of surprised about. And you kind of agree because if you look at their numbers, but there's got to be something that teams see that other people don't.
Yeah, it's a great question. I was looking at more from the angle of just like I loved what he did. Like he added a new slider, he kind of played around with forcing usage, etc. He became a better pitcher in 2024. He finished off the season with like a sub 2.5 ERA last 11 starts. He's one of those guys that pops. Like I'm the data guy. I love looking at analytics and shape and give me like the Roki Sasaki fastball, which is like insane and stuff. But this guy's like a command artist. Like he's one of the best location plus scores per Fangraphs in baseball last year. Like he dots stuff. Like if you were to look at like miss distance stuff, like how often are you or how much you're missing your target by on individual pitch types, like he has supreme command of his slider, his cutter, his changeup, etc. Like this is a really fun pitcher. I get he's 34 years old, but if there's a team that wants to give him like 2 for 32 or something along those lines, like I think that's a smash. Like I expect him to be a better than league average pitcher next year. They pushed him 30 innings year over year between 23 and 24. I bet he can go 150, 160. He could be used in more of a swingman role in the playoffs if you don't want to start him out of the gate. He's a great backfill if you run into injuries. If you want to, you're probably signing him as a starter, but, for example, what if he gets hurt or something like that? Maybe he pushes to more of like a multi-inning relief role for the playoffs or something along those lines. I just think he's a very good pitcher. I just love what he does from a shape standpoint. He mixes a ton. I think that we've gotten so deep on some of the analytics that sometimes we just miss the guys who throw a 5 pitches, 10% plus to one-handedness, which is always a weird thing, I imagine, from a prep standpoint. We got 2 catchers on here. I imagine you guys can both back that up. From a hitter standpoint, I know Ohtani said this as well. I believe publicly that the guys who always mess him up as one of the best hitters in baseball are the ones that have really deep mixes and throw a variety of things in multiple counts. And I feel like he's almost like a back to the basics guy where it's really good command. Everything's average in terms of shape. And I think he's worth pretty easily 16 million a year if you want to give him that. I mean, we'll see what he does in terms of the qualifying offer, but I think there's a team out there maybe even gives him like 3 for a little more. But I get that he's like 35, 30, he'll be in his 35, 36 age season, which is a little bit scary. But I don't know. These command guys last. Like I'm not totally worried about him deteriorating as he ages, etc.
Well, thanks for transitioning right into the next. What did you say? Command guys? Kyle Hendricks just confirmed he signed with the Angels, $2.5 million. What do you feel he can give the Angels? You saw him all year when he was out there from the bullpen, back in the rotation, from the bullpen. How do you see that signing working out for the Angels?
It's a great question. Like I think I'm most surprised that this happened this early. Like I think I love Kyle Hendricks, number one. He's literally the nicest human I've interacted with in my entire life in a clubhouse. Like it's just he remembers everyone's name. Like he's the most cordial person in the world. The media is going to love him. Like I think also from like a young pitcher standpoint, like they bumped up Caden Dana and the Italian guy or Gary or whatever his name is from the Angels. Like I think that he could do a lot from like an intangible standpoint. As to actually what you're going to get from him on the mound, I'm not entirely sure. Like he's deteriorated over each of the last couple seasons. I think that the Angels might just be playing like the we want a guy who could get outs and we like his grit, etc. And even if he's like a 4.7 guy again, 4.6, worse than that league average, like he's probably going to give us a good amount of innings, etc. And I'm not totally like convinced this is like an incredible signing for the organization for the Angels. Like I think that the value in Kyle Hendricks is almost more in the intangibles than being on the field and actually pitching. He's lost some of the sinker command. I think some of those little nuanced things as he's aged, like he's so command based because he doesn't have great stuff, so to speak, that if there's even a slight fall off in that, as we saw at the beginning of the year, he really struggles to get guys out. He rounded into form, I'd say, relatively by the end of the year. His final start of the year was amazing. He's had some individual outings where that command seemed to stick and everything clicked and it worked. But I mean, you attach the price to this, and I think that's probably his market value. But again, maybe the Angels are valuing it more from like a non-on-field perspective of just like having this guy around for a year can really help, Enright and some of the staff there, perhaps, because he's a really cerebral guy, and I think he understands pitching incredibly well. As to whether he's a better than the average pitcher, again, I'd probably bet on the opposite. But that doesn't take away from what he's done to the Cubs organization, how long he's been there, impact he's had, and the impact he's had, I think, on pitchers, young pitchers, etc., is probably unquantifiable.
Listen, Lance, Kyle Hendricks, nice guy. He's got to be able to pitch because you know what? The Angels got Mike Trout. He's a nice guy. They got all these guys that are nice guys. You know what they don't do? They don't win ball games. So it's great. He's a nice guy. But if he runs out there 4-12 with a 5.92 again, it's a bad signing. Spend the $2.5 million somewhere else and find somebody that can actually help you win games. Because the Angels haven't been to the playoffs since 2012, I think it's been.
Correct.
And they haven't won a playoff game since before that.
2014?
2014,
okay,
sorry.
Fine. 2014. And they had their worst season ever just now.
Yes, and they've had the worst season of all time. So this is cool and great and all, but what do the Angels need? They need pitchers that can go out there, give them innings, and actually quality innings, because that was where they missed. They have some young hitters coming. So, sorry, I'm happy Kyle Hendricks is a nice guy. Good for you for signing again. But if you know so much about pitching, hire him as the assistant pitching coach. Don't run him out there every fifth day. Sorry, Kyle. Good luck.
I mean,
I'm just kidding. I mean, like, if you're going to tell me, like, he figured something out, he had one good start, his last start. Before that, he was no good, right, for pretty much the whole year. And I know we're analytics people, minus 1.6 WAR. We can dig into the numbers here all we want, but he just wasn't a very good pitcher last year. And if the Cubs let him walk and they had $2.5 million, then obviously the Cubs don't think he's any good either.
It's a fair point. I mean, and I also, to the point too, like this might be a little harsh, but I kind of don't know what the Angels are doing on the pitching side. Like, they do some really odd things. Like, they use a ton of fastballs in the minor leagues. They had some weird philosophies early in the year where they were just like, let's just zone every pitch. It didn't work. They backed off it. Like, I'm not totally confident that they can fix Kyle Hendricks, to back up your point, AJ. Like, I just don't see him having some renaissance. If he has a renaissance, it's probably because he goes to a third party and works with them as opposed to being inside the Angels organization. There's a lot of things on the data side that jump out to me. Like, if you were to ask me who the worst 2-3 teams are from a pitching development standpoint in baseball, minors through the majors, it's probably the Angels and the Rockies. Like, I think those are the bottom two, and I believe that's the industry consensus. This is not something that I'm just like coming up with off the top of my head. Like, that's kind of it. So, like, if you're expecting them to fix Kyle Hendricks, so to speak, it's not going to happen. What I'd be interested in seeing is if, like, Kyle says, I worked with Tread or Driveline in the offseason, and like, we got to tick back and we added this other pitch or something along those lines. That's what I'm most curious on, if you want to like maybe play the optimism card, which I'm always going to do because Kyle's a great guy.
Okay, good. Let's get to another great guy. Last time you were on here, we had a little bit of an argument about another great guy. His name is Jake Bowers. He went to Milwaukee, and you said, the Yankees have fixed him, this and that. I mean, 199 with another negative WAR guy. I mean, listen, I want Jake Bowers to play well and do well. But, I mean, so far, your analytics and who you're choosing, they ain't standing up so good.
Yeah, it's weird. The analytics, like the team that got to the World Series, like that's wild, Like,
no, but they had good players.
Credit for getting to the World Series?
Listen, you don't need to tell me Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Will Smith.
No, I'm talking about
Max
the Yankees.
Muncy, those are good players. Yeah, and they got boat raced because they got outplayed in baseball fundamentals. Okay. What did Joe Kelly say?
No, I'm ready to go in on this with you. This is not a bad organization from an analytics standpoint.
The Yankees? I'm not saying they're bad analytics, but they're bad from fundamentals and knowing how to play baseball. They were bad, and it showed in the World Series. Like, you can have all the analytics you want, and I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to play baseball and not just have analytics. I think that's the biggest argument. Like, we can always find people. Like, I play with a ton of people that if you put analytics on them, they were great players. But when it came to actually playing the game the way you needed to win games, they weren't very good, and that's why they got out of the game.
It's a fair point. To ruffle your feathers a bit here, though, if I don't play great like fundamental baseball and I can get to the World Series, like, I'm happy to continue to bet on analytics and get my team there a couple times over the next couple of years and maybe win one of them. Like, the Dodgers are one of it's so random in the playoffs. We run into such randomness.
What did the Yankees add? What did the Yankees add this season to get them there? Juan Soto, Marcus Stroman, right? They added all these pieces. Verdugo. Jazz Chisholm, Verdugo. Like, these aren't all analytic darlings, right? The biggest analytic guy, Aaron Judge, also a really good player, didn't hit. But, like, I'm sure analytics don't love Stanton, other than he hits the ball really hard. But he's also bigger and stronger than everybody. So, to me, what the Yankees do is they need to figure out a way to meld the analytics with the good playing, the fundamental stuff. Because listen, Garrett Cole's a good pitcher. I can tell you that without ever looking at analytics and be like, damn, that guy's good. Right? I can look at Aaron Judge and say, that guy's good. I can look at whoever you want to look at and say, man, that guy's good. But I think what I'm saying is like you just can't look at one piece and say, well, man, this guy's doing great AAA. He's got a high exit velocity. Great. 199 minus 0.4 WAR. Sorry, Jake Bowers. I don't mean for you to catch strays, but sorry, I apologize.
You gotta have him on the show sometime. No, I mean, you make a fair point. Like, obviously, the best teams in baseball are ones that thread analytics to the field level. The Dodgers do this better than any organization in baseball. I'd argue there's some other small market teams that do a really good job of this, partially because they probably don't have the money to pay for bigger players, such that the only way they're going to succeed is to do a really good job of communicating analytics down. Thinking of teams like the Brewers, the Twins, etc. But I think at the end of the day, like, analytics are incredibly important, and like I just don't like the tenor. Like, I get they got Bo racing in the World Series, but like I'm not going to be totally surprised if in the next year or two they get back there. A lot of the pieces that, like, Luke Weaver's a great example, right? That was a pure analytics data adjustment that they made on him. Like, they flipped a couple orientations, they fixed his delivery, and that dude turned into like a stud in the postseason. Like, that doesn't happen without the infrastructure they have from an analytics standpoint to make them a better organization. And that's what I think really matters. Like, those subtle things. You saw this with the Dodgers too, in terms of some of their back end relievers. Like, bullpen depth is so important in these situations. And teams that don't like embrace analytics and understand how to develop pitching properly from like a data driven standpoint are just not going to be able to have the depth to like have a sixth reliever pop up from the minors or make an adjustment on a guy midway through a year to turn him into your team's closer. Like, that is where the value is in analytics. The best teams in baseball, the ones with the highest, monetary outlay, like a team like the Yankees and the Dodgers, et cetera, are the ones that can buy those big players and then backfill the rest of the roster with data-driven decisions that make them a better organization. The Yankees would not have gotten there if they didn't have the ability to adjust guys like Weaver, confidence to throw Conley 30, 40 changeups in a row and keep him healthy for whatever part of the season he was healthy for. Like, these subtle things really matter. And I think a lot of the times we just talk about like the big guys and it's just like Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like analytics matter on the margins. That's why teams invest in them, because you can scoop a Tim Maiza from the Blue Jays, make a couple subtle adjustments and turn him into a leverage reliever in the playoffs. Scoop a Tim Hill, tweak a couple things. Like, those things matter. That's really good acquisition, really good implementation of analytics. That's where it matters. It's not so much from my perspective of like, let's determine whether we want to sign Juan Soto or not. Like, of course, if you have the money, go sign Juan Soto. It's the same thing we're going to run into with like Corbin Burns. Like, I get he's deteriorating a bit, but like, if you have the money, just go sign the guy. He's going to make your team better. It's those marginal things, especially in the bullpen, especially with bench bats, that I think really matter from the analytics standpoint.
Yeah, I'm with you on
you
the bullpen.
You got to merge them.
You got to merge them. There's no
100%.
doubt.
I agree. You got to merge them.
The Dodgers played great fundamental baseball. They were a much better, quote, baseball team than the Yankees in that case. And the Yankees, yes, they nailed it on some bullpen signings. They've missed Tom Bertucci's article on the Josh Donaldson's edition a few years back was so damn good. But anyway, hey, we got to jump, but I want to make sure we plug this because, like Lance mentioned, he's got his YouTube channel cranking. Want to give that love. If you want more on Roki Sasaki, go check out his video. And like he said, he's got more coming up this week. So, Lance, really appreciate the time, dude. And I love getting into it at the end, man. Thanks for coming on.
And by the way, before you go, Kratz wants you to know the Cubs suck.
Tell it to my
Kratz said it. Kratz said it, not me.
Not you. That was good. That was good coffee.
Man, whew, he talks fast and a lot.
That was great on Kyle Hendricks, too, just to wrap up that part of the conversation. He just signed for 1 year, $2.5 million.
I know, but like my thing is like, listen, I'm happy for Kyle Hendricks. He gets to keep playing, right? But from what he was saying, like his value is more in just being a nice guy. Like the Angels don't need nice guys. The Angels need dudes that can pitch.
I mean, here, I'll give you a
I know
question.
it's a value signing, and I get it, but I mean,
Griffin Canning has not panned out for them, right? But I'd still rather have Griffin Canning than Kyle Hendricks next year. And I know Canning costs double the amount, but they essentially replaced their 5-ish starter with a guy who costs half the amount. That's okay. But if I'm betting on one versus the other, I think Canning's going to have a better year. And change of scenery.
And a longer career.
And a longer career, but change of scenery for him is definitely going to help. There is, I mean, I know Kratz can probably play middleman here. Like there is stock in having guys that make a positive impact on a ball club. Like I think Bregman for a team like, say, Detroit, if he signs there, is going to make a huge impact in how he helps the guys scout and stay locked in.
No doubt. I think 24 starts. I think if you get 24 starts out of Kyle Hendricks for $2.5 million, to me, it shows the Angels are not. They're trying to fill out the roster. And maybe we'll ask Perry Minasian when he comes on next week. But Kyle Hendricks should be, and I'm all about guys getting big league deals. So is he a big leaguer? That's not for me to question or not. But he gave 24 starts last year. He's been healthy. He probably could have given them 29 had they not taken him out of the rotation, 30 starts. So you're filling out the starts. But, you know, what did Lance Lynn cost last year? $10 million? If you're not willing to go into the $10 million to $15 million range to fill out your rotation, then I guess you pounce on Kyle Hendricks right out of the gate.
Right.
That's fair. That's fine. That's the decision you make. But at some point, if I'm the Angels and I'm an Angels fan, I want them to try to win. Mike Trout ain't getting any younger.
Do we think that they have a playoff roster for next year?
No, but at least
if I'm a fan, in that direction.
I want to move in that direction.
I agree.
Is Kyle Hendricks, and again, I hate picking on like single guys.
I know.
But just because of his signing, is Kyle Hendricks a guy that's going to help them get to the postseason again?
No.
I mean, might he teach somebody something? Sure, which is valuable.
Sure. Yeah, they need a lot of help. We'll talk more about them later with the Trout DH situation. Ken wrote about him. GM manager moves. We've got some updates. Skip Schumaker is not going to manage a baseball club in 2025. That's a shocker to me. But then when you see the follow-up news about him, I'm like, okay, I can see where they're going here. So Evan Grant reporting this, and I think we might try to get him later this week. The Rangers have hired Skip Schumaker as a senior advisor to the president of baseball operations, Chris Young. They're expected to finalize a deal with his former bench coach, Luis Ureta, who's also known as Pipe. I know him well. He's the Team Columbia manager every year too, or every 4 years at the WBC. But anyway, he'll join the Rangers coaching staff in that role. And then Jim Bowden followed up and said Skip's now in position to be the next manager of the Rangers whenever Bruce Bochy decides to retire, and Ureta replaces Will Venable as their new bench coach. First off, can we get him on, Skip, at some point again? We should get him on now that he's got the new gig here. It's a great interview.
Let's go.
But what'd you guys think when you saw that?
I'll text him.
Well, there was no jobs available.
Or that he liked.
What's
left here? What's left on
Miami?
The board? That's it? Is that the only one left?
I think so. Is there another one that I'm missing here, Kratzy?
Cincinnati got filled. White Sox got filled.
You mean before the season? I mean, I think he could have gone to the Reds. He could have gone to the White Sox. I don't think the Reds. I was surprised. I'll be honest. I was surprised, but Tito kind of jumped in line there. So he doesn't want to go. I don't think he wanted to go to a White Sox situation. He was already there with Miami, and then he took them to the playoffs, and he got bounced. So I don't know how much he interviewed, what that whole process was, but I don't think Skip was I don't think he was doing a Craig Counsell and taking somebody's job that was already in a position. So I think it's great for him. I think it's awesome for Skip. He gets to see a different side of it too, but he gets to kind of transition himself into the organization, especially if they think he's going to be the next manager of that team.
I also think he goes to Texas. He takes a year off. Guess what could be open next year? St. Louis.
Oh, St. Louis. Yeah.
Yankees possibly, depending on Boone signed a 1-year extension, right? Mm-hmm. So he could go to Texas, learn from Bochy, sit there, learn the front office a little bit more. And then guess what? Mozeliak is done after 25. Didn't he say that? 1 more year?
Yes.
And then Chaim Bloom takes over.
Correct.
Right? Ollie Marmol, I think, has 1 more year left on his deal. So I don't know. There might be some other options after 1 year sitting out.
And there'll be other teams too.
There's always going to be other teams.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think he wanted to go to the White Sox after what he just went through with the Marlins.
No, you're right. I think you guys nailed it.
New
there.
GM.
Yeah. But also there's going to be massive growing pains for a while. I mean, he got to see 2 separate seasons. He was on
For who?
On Skip 2 years ago. He's on a contending team that ends up sneaking into a wild card spot that outperformed expectations. And then they kind of stripped the team down to parts. And he had to run through that last year or this past season with the Marlins, and it sucks. And if the White Sox call, I mean, he's going to have to do what he just did with the Marlins for several more seasons. That's tough. Like, there's guys who have done it, right? Brandon Hyde did that for a while, made it through the other side. Derek Shelton's still going through that process. It is really difficult to manage a team that's in a bad spot and not putting themselves in a good spot still for a while. Like, we know the White Sox are going to have another 100-loss season next year. That's tough. So you're right. Why not have a good time with a contending team like the Rangers? Very respected organization, too, with what Chris Young's doing. Boch
isn't going to be there forever.
No.
So he can learn the organization inside out and then just slide into the manager's job, possibly. Now, we all thought that was going to be Will Venable, and Will Venable went to Chicago.
Yeah, well, he didn't want to wait, and he liked the Chicago opportunity. So speaking of Chicago, we have Ken Rosenthal putting out his notes column last night in The Athletic. There were a number of good notes, so we'll bring some of them up throughout the show. David Ross, could he be a factor for the Baltimore Orioles as their bench coach? Ken reported that the Orioles are interested, according to sources familiar with the team's process. He said whether Ross would want the job, if the Orioles indeed offered it, is not known. He said a year ago he turned down the Yankees' interest in hiring him to replace Carlos Mendoza as their bench coach, and that was very soon after Ross got kind of blindsided by the Cubs with the Counsell situation. But he said if he does want to get back into a uniformed position, this could be a fit because he's close with Brandon Hyde. Hyde was his first base coach with the Cubs in 2015 and 2016. Do we see it, or do we think he waits for a manager?
Well, they know each other from Chicago.
Yeah. But he's still, I mean,
Hyde was there when Ross was still playing.
Yeah. It's not a high money job, and he could just sit another year and then wait for other positions to open up and take one. Is he not
but
a factor?
The Orioles are winning. They're trying to win now. So
if
you're a coach and you're a manager and you're fired unceremoniously, let's say it the way it is, the way he was out of Chicago, you can go to the Orioles and establish yourself and reestablish yourself as a bona fide big league manager.
Right.
So, I mean, you want to go to
he's
a
a bench coach.
Yeah, but bench coaches usually lead to big league managers.
What does he have to prove, though? Like,
he can win.
Yeah. What's your thoughts? Help me, Kratz.
No, you do have to prove. You can't just sit there and be like Aaron Boone's path to being the manager of the Yankees is so rare. Guys aren't just coming out of nowhere to become managers. Does it happen? Yes, absolutely it does. You have your guys who were just sitting in the front office somewhere and they're like, oh, he should be a manager. You have to reestablish yourself. Not that anything he would do in Baltimore would he's not ready. No, you're a bench coach. Like, all the moves, all the decisions that you make that you screw up, the manager takes the heat for him. So you do have to reestablish yourself, and David Ross is not going to the minor leagues to manage. And I'm not saying that's the path either. I'm saying you can't just be on the couch and be like, everybody call me. I'm ready to work whenever you have an opening. I don't think it works like that, and I think he's done. This guy's been in baseball forever. He's been done he was out for a year. Now he's back, and it's a team. If you want to go coach somewhere, go coach a team that wins. The Orioles are going to win. Whether or not they're going to win enough, we'll see.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm still going to ask it. Why wouldn't he be a fit for the Marlins to
as a manager
be part of the next track there? He certainly has worked with analytic-focused front offices. Maybe, although I think he's the kind of guy that would like Miami. Is he from Tallahassee?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
it's a long way to Miami.
It's way closer to Miami than Tallahassee is to almost anywhere else. It's closer to Miami than it is to Baltimore. But I actually think I have my own answer to the question. I don't think they're necessarily going to shell out a lot of cash for a manager. That's a team that operates their entire budget in a very small spectrum. So I don't think they necessarily would want to pay him the amount to be a manager. I would think that they're going for more of the never been a manager before, highly regarded in a winning organization. Here's 3 years, $800K a year. And David Ross is like, I was making millions with the Cubs. I'm going to take a deal like this just to manage. I mean, you have leverage. It's called money in your bank account. Do you guys agree with that?
I think the Marlins are looking for the cheapest thing they can find.
Right, and that's not David Ross.
I mean, maybe it depends on how bad he wants to get back into it. Maybe it is David Ross. Maybe he doesn't want
I haven't heard his name connected to the Marlins. Have you?
Whose name have you heard connected to the
Clayton
McCullough?
McCullough.
How's that working out?
Well, it's still working.
He was busy.
I don't know.
He was busy giving high fives.
That was over a week
ago. A lot of high fives.
He was partying at a parade.
But still, like normally they get it done right away.
You're right.
If he's your guy, it should be done by now.
Mm-hmm.
If Clayton McCullough's your guy, and you're the Marlins, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sorry.
It shouldn't be complicated.
But it seems like everything with the Marlins is complicated.
David Ross is taking that job if it's his first one. Now he proved he doesn't, and especially after this year, the Cubs didn't do well. It proved that he was doing the best he could with the team that he had. He doesn't need to prove himself in the sense that like, oh, I just need to take any managerial job. Like a guy like that's been, in the limelight, dancing with the stars, all that stuff. Do you think he wants to rebuild? Do you think he wants to be a rebuilding manager in his second term as a manager? To me, I think he wants to slide in, Brandon Hyde. Watch out, Brandon Hyde. He might get you.
Slow start from Baltimore. Things could change. You're right. You always got to look at who's behind you. There's always a bench coach there that's friends with the manager until they take over. So anyway, be right back on FT. A lot of other news to hit today. Ken put out a good article. We'll break down some of the other stories. Off-season FT shout out Mint Mobile. We love you because you're cheap and we talk about money all off-season long. So we're trying to save money for human beings that still want unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network, and you want all the high-speed data, the whole deal, and you want to be able to do the switch.
This is not like saving the money that the teams are trying to save money. Teams are trying to save money just to save money. You switch to Mint Mobile, you still get the nation's largest 5G network. Like you're still getting the superstar player. The difference is you're just paying for me, not the superstar player.
Right.
You're getting a superstar at my price.
For lack of a better metaphor right now, you can get Pierzynski offensive production, 2,000 plus hits or whatever for Kratz pricing.
Kratz's minor league contract.
That's right. But it's major league, as we always say, it's major league Wi-Fi, it's major league cell service. So anyway, to get the offer, your 3-month premium wireless plan, brand new, $15 a month, mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/TERRITORY. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on their first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. In the weeds, we read Ken Rosenthal's The Athletic article. There's a lot of good notes and reports in there. I'm going to give you guys dealer's choice. You want to start with Yankees, Angels, or Mariners?
I mean, your favorite team, the Mariners. obviously.
All right, let's go there.
For you.
So Ken said they're likely to increase payroll. But wait, hold on. But not for players like Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, Christian Walker. Contract of $100 million plus for any free agent is probably outside of their budget. Largely, the increase will be fueled by raises in salary arbitration for players like Randy Arozarena, Logan Gilbert, and George Kirby. And Ken said they want to add an additional option at either second or third base to go along with Dylan Moore and Josh Rojas. They also do want to add a first baseman. He said Justin Turner could be in play there so that they can put Luke Raley in the outfield on days that Arozarena and Julio Rodriguez are at DH. So what did we learn? The Mariners are going to do a couple cute little moves. They're going to do what they always do. They just reshuffle a little bit and
try again.
They don't want to do splashes anymore. Do they still have PTSD from the Cano situation?
They must. It's different owners from then, since then, isn't it?
I know, but they still I've seen articles about how, that obviously didn't work out for them, but I'm like, damn, you can't be scared to get a superstar.
I don't know. I'm going to let Kratz handle this one because it just
Are you mad? Yeah.
It's crazy to me because of what they have. If it was a team that's just going to float through the existence of a Major League Baseball season, hey, you know what? That's a different set of angst for me. That's a different avenue. These guys have a historic starting rotation. This is the time to go for it. I get it. Robinson Cano hurt your feelings when it didn't work out with that contract. Dang it, I messed up. It's okay. You also didn't have the starting rotation that you have. You didn't have legit up the middle defense. Add to it, supplement it. You are in a larger market than people even understand. You have a team right now. This is where every organization wants to get to. You are there, supplement it, add to it. And I love the fact that you said they're going to add to payroll without it being the big name guys. I was like, are they going to are they going to play with 28 players? So they're going to have to pay extra players that aren't even on the roster. I don't get it. Of course you have to pay these guys. It's arbitration. That's cooked in. That's cooked in. These are 1-year contracts, arbitration for some of the best all-star players on your roster.
Yeah, these are good players. Yeah.
Yes.
They're good players that they have, and they get more expensive over time. That's natural. Also, by the way, with Cano, if you go back, they didn't pay market value. They way overpaid.
They bid against themselves.
Yeah, they bid against themselves. The Yankees, I think, turned out to be the second best offer. And don't quote me on anything, but that's what I remember reading. And they were $50 million apart or something crazy like that. So you look back and you're like, well, you guys just didn't do a good job with that. Again, don't look back there. I do think they're just really tight on what their payroll is these days, and they're not going to move it that much. They're going to keep the books the way they want to keep them, whether they win or lose. And unfortunately, they're getting close to wasting away, like what Kratz said, one of the better starting rotations we've seen in a long time. And you're playing with fire in multiple ways. One is they get closer to free agency. 2 is they get more expensive. 3 is they are ticking time bombs because it's called a major league pitcher. And all of them have arms that often lead to problems. And damn, their dudes were healthy this year on top of everything else. It's not like you look back and say, well, half our rotation got hurt. Look at how their rotation held up versus the Dodgers rotation. I mean, totally. This was the year. This was the year. That's why crazy. I went nuts last year. I went nuts. But I'm not going to do it again because I can't do that. It's bad for my blood pressure. The doctor said I got it.
So I guess we know the Mariners.
Stop reading Ryan Divish articles late at night, Scott. You can't do that. You're going to.
Well, then let's go to the Angels, Scott. Let's really get your blood pressure up.
Okay. So Ken wrote about their DH situation because we were questioning the Soler edition, not for the bat. We know he's a good bat, but we're like, is DH the move? And Ken said Rendon won't play regularly. Yeah, that's good. I like that. But he said the Angels don't want Trout DHing much. And I'm actually really curious to get your take here, AJ. So they essentially think this, according to Ken, that the 3 most recent injuries, left rib cage inflammation, 22, a left hamate fracture in 23, and the torn meniscus in his left knee in 24. He said each of those issues stemmed at least in part from the act of swinging. club officials believe, although I'm going to go hard against the meniscus with the knee. That is definitely with running and movement and all that. But you guys tell me, you guys are the hitters. So they said that they won't use Trout as a DH as much as you think. And there'll be a little bit of Soler DHing, but they figured that him at $13 million is going to be much less than it would have cost for Teoscar Hernandez or Anthony Santander. Okay, so help me. Do you think Mike Trout playing almost every day in the field will make him more healthy because he's going to swing more if he's just a DH?
No, but he's a perfectionist, and the Angels are afraid he's going to swing too much between at bats. No, if you want to keep him healthier, there's a reason Yordan Alvarez DHs, David Ortiz DH, Edgar Martinez DH for a long time, because it keeps their bat in the lineup and it keeps them healthy. There's a reason why older guys before the National League implemented the DH would go to the American League and they would stay healthy because they weren't on their feet the whole game. They definitely weren't running around the outfield trying to catch fly balls, especially, if the Angels continue to play Mike in center field. This just...
I think they're going to put him in the corner.
But I just don't understand. You need to DH him more. I'm sorry. You need to. You need to figure out a way, and Mike's not going to like it. But if you want to keep him healthy and out on the field more, and hamate bone, yes, of course, from swinging. Rib cage inflammation, you could do that from throwing or swinging. And then finally his knee, he's just starting to break down. It sucks. And hopefully in 25, he doesn't break down. He plays the whole time.
Sprinting all around the outfield, good or bad for the knee?
Not great. Not great. Whether it's from swinging or it's not from swinging, it doesn't really matter. We just talked about the Mariners. Ken wrote about the Mariners and about the fact that they're taking Julio Rodriguez, who I'm pretty sure is 23, turning 24, and they're finding him DH days. They have a Rosarena getting DH days, but they also said that Julio Rodriguez is going to get DH days. It is okay. Unless Trout really hates it and he feels like I'm not as good of a hitter when I DH, I would still be like, let's figure it out. Because 130 games of you in the outfield and 32 of you DHing is way better than 100 games of just you in the outfield.
Yeah, I didn't understand the mindset here, but there is good news. We'll talk to Perry Minasian next week about this and get his take, because Ken obviously is reporting it with good reason and good sourcing. So lastly, he wrote about the Yankees and the Cole situation, but really kind of spun it forward and said that the fourth luxury tax threshold next season is going to be $301 million. That's what everyone calls the Steve Cohen tax. And he said that Hal Steinbrenner seems disinclined to exceed that figure for the Yankees for a second straight year. So he said even a minor reduction in Cole's $36 million average annual value would have helped the Yankees create more flexibility from a luxury cap perspective or a luxury tax perspective. But I'm like, well, why would Cole do that? If he's still because he put in there, maybe he takes more of an incentive late in last year there. I'm like, well, why would Cole do that? Cole might as well play the contract out at that point. And if he's thriving by that age, he might be able to get another few years like a Verlander deal, or Scherzer got a lot of money late in their career. So what did you guys learn from that?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
I learned that Cole didn't opt out. He opted out, but he really didn't opt out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I learned. And the Yankees weren't going to pick up his $36 million option when he did opt out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I learned.
Actually, you know what I thought in the past 24 hours? Not that he needs one, but it's like an extra chip. Okay, screw you. But I'm going to pitch really well, and I might get myself another little deal on the back end of this, right? It might end up hurting them. Not likely, but it could. What if he is thriving at age 38, and then he's like, cool, now I'm worth 2 or 3 more seasons. I'm like a Verlander, where I can still get myself a 2-year 50 or something like that. The Yanks will pay him at that point if they need to, but just throwing it out there.
No, I don't. I think the Yankees did the exact right thing. Even if he is thriving, that just means that they did the right thing even more. Then they can go, you can go $40 million a year for some dude who was a Cy Young at age 38. It's a rare thing. Pitchers age better than position players. I'll keep saying it. We have way more examples of it right now. But no, I think the Yankees did a great job of, holding their ground, and they still keep their guy.
Mm-hmm. And there you go. Looks pretty damn good despite the first base covering situation there, which again is Debatable whose fault that was.
But that didn't cost them the World Series.
It did not cost them the World Series.
It was a small piece.
Yeah.
It's like the Bill Buckner with the Red Sox. That didn't cost them that game. The game was already tied.
Right, exactly.
Right? And then they still had a game 7 they were leading and they lost. Like that one thing from Garrett Cole not covering first base. Freddie Freeman got a hit. Teoscar got a hit. They got the lead again, and then they blew it again. So
it's just what people
remember because it's that moment.
Yeah, it's a good call. All right, we'll swing back. We will go to the Astros' pursuit of free agent Alex Bregman, and the Blue Jays and A's had some comments on their stars. I'm going to read this just because people ask it all the time and then other people get pissed about it. But Alex said, why hasn't Trout demanded a trade? Because he's loyal. It's not his style. He's not going to do it. At least not right now. That's the answer. It's been clear cut too. That is the answer. It's not like a secret. He's staying there and he wants to ride it out. So it is what it is. I need money in the chat. One of our friends in there said Mariners could use a Jake Cronenworth. That would really help them out. He did have a nice bounce back year, Cronenworth. He was pretty valuable this year because that contract still was weird because you're like, you didn't need to hand it out. But, I mean, he was a 2-win player. He was about league average with the offense. And he came on strong later in the season. So it's a good thought, but he's not cheap. So that's actually the problem for the M's, you know?
Yeah.
Did you guys see? I mean, that could deter the situation there. They did trade for Jorge Polanco last year, and he was okay. He kind of broke down towards the end, but it turned out that he needed surgery.
I mean, the Mariners made some nice moves. They just need one more big bat. Julio didn't have a great year, but they need one more big bat, 2 above-average bats to just push them over the edge a little bit, man.
They need an aircraft carrier.
It's much more scary to face a Dodgers, obviously, Dodgers, Yankees, even Rangers with their depth in their lineup, Astros, than it is to go to Seattle and look at what they have and say, okay, well, these 3 guys don't get us, then we can kind of navigate through the other 6. And listen, they've tried, but they won't make the big move. They won't make the big splash.
They could have traded one of 3 or 4 starters. I'm not talking about the big boys like Gilbert and George Kirby, but the younger guys, and gotten themselves Juan Soto last year. And even if they needed to clear some money, they should have done it. They might have made it to the World Series if Juan Soto's on their team. One player.
They would have had a better chance.
Wasn't the strongest American League this year. One player could have made that difference. Just throwing it out there because I harped on it a lot when it was happening. After they got past the whole we're not offering Ohtani money, I was like, what about Soto? He's $30 million for 1 season. One season. It was perfect, but it just wasn't the pick. That was a mistake. Thursdays are doubleheader days on YouTube. Fair Territory, 12:30 Eastern Time. Taking your questions live. Check out the show, or you can listen to it afterward on YouTube or wherever you get your pods. And that show runs into our show, which you can then interact with us. And we've been answering plenty of questions for you in the YouTube chat today. Let's swing back and spread some rumors. Try to take a little positive spin on some storylines here. So the Astros have had a really good team for a while, and there's comments from Dana Brown who said he's the GM. He said he's had productive conversations with Scott Boras about Alex Bregman. He didn't say if there was an official offer made, but he did say that their biggest priority this offseason is third base without a doubt, and they would love to have Bregman back. And again, said it's our biggest priority. Good for them. I mean, I hope that they figure something out and they can bring him back. It's obviously a good fit there. Do you think
really
he will
the biggest priority?
be brought back?
You don't think extending Kyle Tucker would be bigger priority than Alex?
I think they're talking about, but he's still with them. I think if you if you asked him behind the scenes, hey, what's a bigger deal to you, extending Kyle Tucker or signing Bregman in free agency, you might get a different answer. But I don't think that was really the question. I think it was like, hey, what do you need to do or add? And he's like, there's a free agent who used to be on our team and he's not anymore. And we'd like to make sure that he comes back.
I think they just want to bring him back.
No.
He is right. They need a third baseman. They don't have one. So Bregman would be as nice as anybody over there at third base. If they don't get him, who do they go get? Because nobody out there is the level of Alex Bregman. I mean, are they going to make a crazy trade? I mean, they don't have a lot of pieces to make trades with. So, I mean, I think they should try to bring him back. I love when players would be with one team their entire career, like Altuve is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And you make Bregman an Astro for life. I think it'd be awesome. But do they have the payroll? I know Jim Crane said he doesn't want this window to ever close, but at some point, look at the Yankees, as just said. They don't want to go over a certain luxury cap. Every team at some point gets to a point where they're like, we don't have the capital to keep spending on players.
This is generally not their style to go hard after a massive deal in free agency. They lock these guys up usually beforehand, but maybe they make a special case here for him. I mean, yeah, there are not great options. Adames would move to third base for the right situation. I think, say if the Mets made a play for him and they said, well, actually that doesn't make sense because they have Vientos unless he's playing first. But anyway, back to Adames for a sec. He's going to cost more probably than Bregman, right?
He's younger, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm looking at third base. Help me out, YouTube chat. You guys see something that I'm not seeing?
Bregman's a perfect.
Would Pena move to third if they got Adames?
No. Pena's a Gold Glove shortstop. Didn't he win a Gold Glove?
Yeah, Pena would stay, and Adames would move anyway. But my point is, I don't think that's going to be the signing for them. Mm-hmm. So the best play is bringing him back.
Goes anywhere else, unless somebody bids over the Astros. And I think the Astros – I don't think they're going to outbid the Astros. I don't think the Astros will let it happen.
So you think they'll match what he finds?
Yeah. I think it's a great market for him.
Next up, Brent Rooker. A's GM David Forst said, we're going to keep Rooker. So John Heyman tweeted, end the trade speculation. I actually agree with this. I like this. Rook's awesome. I mean, they can't lose forever, and he's a winning player. This actually plays to what you were talking about earlier with Kyle Hendricks. This dude is a winning player, a very, very above average hitter, and he helps the ball club. That's what you want.
Yes. You want the trifecta.
Yeah.
Good player, good clubhouse guy, and cheap.
Yeah. That is the A's trifecta.
That is the trifecta for Oakland.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, never mind. The A's. Oh, wait, you can't call them that either. The ATHs.
Call them what you want. And then Ross Atkins told John Morosi, easy no to any trade inquiries on Bo Bichette.
Well, I mean, the way Morosi's track record last year, this means he's getting traded tomorrow. So I kid. I'm joking. I love JP. I love John
and
Paul
he can
Morosi.
laugh about it, I think. Yes. He knows.
I mean, the problem is John Morosi gets confused in which language he's tweeting in. So sometimes because he speaks like 22 languages. So like sometimes I think he might be tweeting in Italian instead of English, and he writes the wrong thing.
But this one was real. Although I mean I didn't see the interview, but I looked. One comment was like, "Well, he was asked about if they would trade him for a discount," but then other people disputed that. Whatever.
They're not trading.
They're not trading him. Should they trade?
The better
him?
question is, which one do they extend?
Vladdy.
Okay.
They'll try to extend Vladdy. I don't think that. So technically, I think they will extend neither.
Okay, so they're both going to hit free agency after this year?
Yes. I think Bo's definitely gone. I think Vladdy's likely gone.
Can you say Soto to Toronto?
No.
Okay.
I think they're going to try one more time this year. They're going to clean house, including potentially the front office, and they're going to rebuild after this season. They're kind of going into this next year like, let's just put the same pieces out there and see if everybody has a career year, and maybe we sneak in as a wild card. And then if they don't, they'll blow it up.
They got to add some pieces, though, for that. For me, they need some bullpen help. They need some hitting help.
They'll make some moves. I don't think they're getting Soto.
Okay.
They have starting pitching. And all their starting pitching is running out in the sense that after this year, I think one guy, and I forget who it would be, has 1 year, but Gosman will be done. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Guy that shakes himself off. Used to pitch for the Mets.
Bassett? Bassett.
Thank you. Bassett. They already got rid of Kikuchi. So to me, they add a bullpen piece. They add something. I think they lost a lot of defense with Chapman leaving. I think they undervalued the fact that Brandon Belt the year before gave them a ton of offense coming from the first base position. So maybe they learned from that. Maybe learn from it, and they add to what they didn't think they needed from the year before to get into the playoffs. And I think they make a push at it, and they send Bo. And if this is true, if Morosi's actually telling the truth or knows what is going on,
what was the quote? Yeah,
it's an easy no. So this is their last. It's their last hurrah. So if you're a Blue Jays fan, go out, watch the team play, because there ain't gonna be anybody left if they're gonna clean house and start over.
Yeah, but also Bo's value is just mid-range right now, coming off the season he had, and I think he could have a big first half. And if they're not in a good position, they'll trade him at the deadline if they're in that spot.
Yeah.
Rotation-wise,
first base and DH value are not that. Like, I know Brent Rooker had like a 5-6 WAR season. Like, he had a 165 OPS plus. But like DH and first base values are not astronomical in trades. So the same thing with Vladdy. It's not astronomical in trades. I get it. He's an all-star. He's an should have been an MVP, all that stuff. But it's still not that astronomical price that you're going to get for other premium positions.
I think you'd get a ton for Vladdy if you said today, I'm trading him. I think a lot of teams need first baseman, and he is up there with Pete and Christian Walker, and then there's a massive drop-off. Their rotation, by the way, Gausman, Barrios, Chris Bassett, Yariel Rodriguez, and Alec Manoah, but also I don't want to miss out on our boy Bowden Francis, who finished nice and strong.
He was ridiculous.
I mean, they had that same rotation this year and didn't win.
No, I think Kratz's point is excellent. Brandon Belt was a dude two seasons ago, and Matt Chapman was still an above offensive.
Moreno.
Yeah.
Gurriel, Moreno, Chapman, Belt, the last 2 years have all been
shipped out. It's not the same team. They're kind of like, we believe in this group, but you're really
they believe in Bichette, and Kirk hasn't developed the way they thought. Jansen was shipped out, right? Mm-hmm. Varsho didn't hit the way we thought he would. They thought he would hit when they traded for him. He's played great defense.
Yeah.
Right. So they Springer isn't the same Springer he was in Houston. So I think there's a lot of holes on this team, and other than Bichette and Vladdy, but you need more than 2 players. I'm sorry.
Right now, it's not a playoff team. They finished in last, didn't they?
I don't know. It was either them or the Reds, or the Rays or the Red Sox. One of those 3.
I'm pretty sure they ended up in last, so they got a lot of games to make up. I'll double check and then we'll break. As you should. They were not in the postseason mix, and they finished in last. They were 12 games back of first. They were 6 games back of the 4th place Tampa Bay Rays. So, yeah, I don't know what the direction is there, but
they're going to be fascinating this year.
It is.
Because where do the Rays play?
Yep.
What do the Blue Jays do?
Yep.
Do the Orioles ever take the next step, and who are they going to sign when Corbin Burns walks out?
They're going to be good.
They're going to be good, but can they take the next step to catch the Yankees? Because the Yankees, are going to
They're going to reload.
Right?
And the Red Sox
should be a little better. And the Red Sox, what the hell are they going to do?
They should be better.
Are they going to go, finally? Or are they going to go,
what kind of boat? All right, well, we'll swing back. We'll talk to Mike Ford, who just won a championship out in Japan and had just a crazy year from the big leagues to overseas, the whole deal. Great dude. Coming up next. So when you see this and you're a Yankee player, what do you think? And do you remember this the next time you face Joe Kelly this coming season? Does this get talked about in spring training, or is this more for the public and the players don't care?
That's why I think players should speak more like this, especially pitchers. Shoot, There's no ramification. What are they going to do? Well, I'm going to try harder when Joe Kelly comes out to pitch. Joe's going to be a free agent. He's going to find a job somewhere. Like, he's not – I don't think – there's no ramifications. Now, if you were a position player and you called out, a team's pitching staff, maybe they might put one or two in your ribs, but you don't see that happening. So pitchers, they have all that they can handle, and they're not like a rivalry during the season. They might play each other one series because they won't come to Yankee Stadium this year. Is that what it's going to happen? Anyway, so they're going out to LA. Doesn't matter. Like, I don't think it matters. And who knows where Joe's even going to be.
Would you take this?
I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter.
If you're in the Yankees, though, would you have?
No, I think the Yankees will look at it and say, everyone keeps saying the same thing. Maybe we need to take a look at our fundamentals and be better defensively. That's how you take it.
You don't think the Yankees would be in the clubhouse in spring training or when they're facing Joe Kelly and be like, screw this guy?
Maybe,
Did you see what he said?
Yeah,
you wouldn't put it on a board
But,
somewhere?
how many Yankees are free agents? Verdugo, Torres. There's a whole long list of them.
Yeah, like, is Verdugo going to go sign with the Reds and then play against Joe Kelly, who's going to be with the Pirates next year, and go, oh, I'm going to get him back right now for what he said about our fundamentals?
Yeah, but 70% of the Yankees, or at least 50 to 60, are going to return, right?
Maybe.
So Judge, Cole, Rodon, go down the list.
No.
You don't,
if
Volpe,
someone hits a home run off
Wells.
them, they might pimp it a little bit, but
Yeah.
they're not going to. What is Jazz Chisholm going to hit a home run off them and be like, man, I'm a better third baseman than you thought? No,
Hey, Big Mike Ford joining us, and he's a champion. The NPB champion, Nippon Professional Baseball League out in Japan. And obviously many of our fans are following that league for a single individual player. We'll get to that later. But Mike, great to have you on, man, and congratulations. Did you party hard?
Thank you. Yeah, we had a good time, and then 20-hour flight back the next day. So, just got back, still dealing with the jet lag a little bit, but had a great time. I got to do it with Tyler, who was a teammate from New York. So it's a bunch of fun.
Tyler,
wait, hold on. So how do they celebrate? No, wait, Kratzy, how do they celebrate in Japan?
Yeah.
Do they do a ticker-tape parade? Do you get rings? Like, how does this whole thing work? Because I don't know that I've ever talked to anybody I'm sure I know somebody that has won a championship in Japan, but I've never really asked. Do you get rings? Do you do a parade? Do you get to go on, like, their version of talk shows? How does it work over in Japan?
Yeah, so the team I played for hadn't won in a while. So I think it was kind of up in the air, kind of the festivities after the American guys had left, the foreign guys had left. But I know for us, when we were there in the first round, we played Hanshin, and there was no celebration after the first round. So we just kind of said, all right, on to the next one. Went to Tokyo, and then they do beer showers instead of champagne showers. So it was a good beer fight in Tokyo. They do it in the hotel, not the stadium. So it's about 2 hours after the game, and then when we won at home, we obviously did it in the indoor facility. So not a locker room, so a little different, a little waiting around, but had a lot of fun doing it.
What kind of beer did you spray? Did you spray Sapporo beer in Sapporo?
No, I think it was Akashi. But I wasn't too concerned about looking at the label. Going over there was about midway through the year for me, so it was about 4 months, and I had an amazing experience. The country's filled with great people, really good food, It's really clean. And a great baseball atmosphere, but there's always a pull to come home, and it was, let's have some fun tonight, and then I got to get on that flight. So,
did you have fun? Did you have more fun than TA? Tyler Austin is who he was talking about when he said Tyler earlier. Obviously famous for fighting, who we were just talking about, Joe Kelly, when it was a Red Sox-Yankees rivalry. So that's the TA, which we had to bust his balls today because he didn't come on, but you did come on the show after your 20-hour flight.
Yeah, no, TA had a good time. He had a big beer keg on his back during the beer fight, and I think he was, picking me out for a lot of it. So no, we had a good time. He's been there 5 years, so he's pretty comfortable over there, and it was really just nice to have him, kind of take me under his wing over there, show me the ropes a little bit, and kind of made the transition a little easier.
Mike, when you guys win the first round and they're like, we're not celebrating, did you say, listen, I played for the Yankees, okay? We celebrate right after we win every round, and then they didn't have champagne, so you're looking around like, what bottles are we popping? And then you had to wait 2 hours. Like, were you getting like withdrawal from? Because I would have been sitting there like, I'm just going to pour a beer on my own head here, right? Just because, like, what you had to think. I've been to Japan. I know it's a different culture and it's totally awesome over there. But I just think I would have been like, okay, I'm just going to pour. I would have went over to TA and just said like, hey, we're going to have our own little party here while we can.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. The first round, I was like, wait, you guys don't party after this? But just kind of, I guess, how they do things. That first round is the way the playoffs is set up is 2 versus 3, and then the winner of that goes on to play the winner of the league, so Central or Pacific. So I think that the main series is that last series, whoever wins 2 versus 3, and then plays the champion of the league. And then obviously the Japan series comes from those 2 winners. But yeah, we were kind of like, wait, what? And luckily we kind of did our own little thing. Each time I think we were all kind of like, hey, we got to get a beer on our hands. We just kind of won, so we sent one of the translators across the street to 7-Eleven, got some things started a little bit earlier. So it was a good time. Great group of guys.
Before I get into your crazy journey this year that just ended in a 20-hour flight, does TA know a lot of Japanese? Because I cannot see TA. He was my roommate when we played with the Giants together. We would commute in. Does he know Japanese?
He gets away with it. He can, he knows some phrases and different things. He's had the same translator for 3 years now. His name's Koki. He's a great guy, and he helps TA out. He knows TA pretty well at this point. So, Koki was great. He kind of works with the hitters at the big league level over there. So obviously Tyler was his guy for a while, and then helped me out while I was there. I had a different guy in the minor leagues show. But all the translators are great. They really make your life really easy, and that definitely helps the whole experience. I mean, without it, you'd kind of be lost, especially at the beginning. So,
all right, now tell me if I'm missing anything. All right, you're on the couch. You sign with the Reds. You play in AAA. You hit 297, 912 OPS. You take your out because they didn't call you up to the big leagues. 2 days later, they call you up to the big leagues. You hit a very Kratz 150, and you get fired from the big leagues. You get signed to go and play in Japan. You go to the bushes in Japan, and then you go to the big leagues? Or were you in the big leagues, you Kratzed it again, went down to the minor leagues, and then got called back up?
All right, so there's a lot that goes into this, but I'll try to make it quick. So yeah, obviously, after having the year with Seattle, I thought, I'd have some opportunities, different places. Obviously, kind of a positionalist in people's minds player. I can play first, obviously, but I mainly DH last year for Seattle. So going into the offseason, I thought I was going to get tendered there. I ended up not getting tendered there. So, I had some offers to go to Japan last offseason, but I didn't really want to close the door on the U.S. I think it's a little easier for pitchers to come back. I think hitting is, you might go over there a little later as a hitter, and it's a little bit more difficult to come back to the U.S. So after having that year with Seattle, I kind of wanted to keep that door open. So I went to camp with Cincinnati, had a good spring. Walked into the meeting, and I was like, man, this is going to be the first positive meeting of my career. I might make this team, and ended up not being. And just kind of took my out then, and then re-signed with them. Had a month in the minor leagues. Took my out again, and I was home for about a week. One of your co-hosts, Todd Frazier, let me come up and hit at his cage for about 2 days. Right before I randomly got a phone call that they had an injury in Cincinnati, and they wanted me to go back. Signed quickly, and just kind of got thrown into it. And as you said, kratzed it a bit, but 60 at bats. I just didn't go in and hit, and that's what I have to do to stay in the big leagues, and I know that. So once that was done, I kind of just said, it might be time to try something new. I had an offer from Yokohama to go to Japan. The timeline kind of worked out great, where it would be a nice 4-month period of time to see if I liked it and to see if I wanted to continue doing it in the future, which is definitely a possibility for me. I mean, I really enjoyed my time over there. The life portion was great for me over there. The baseball portion, when I signed, I thought I was going to be in the big leagues a lot with Tyler, but there's a foreign limit player limit there. Five players on the roster at one time. Had some pitching stuff, so there was 4 pitchers and Tyler. Tyler got hurt for like 6 games. I went up, and then I was in the minor leagues the rest of the regular season. So it was kind of the same old thing on the baseball side for me, up until the playoffs, and then luckily got brought up in the playoffs. Pinch hit in basically every game. Had a good little run, and just kind of like got the baseball experience I was looking for out of the whole experience. And the games are crazy. The fans are into it, and at the end of the day, it was a great experience. And life off the field was amazing, and I'd recommend it to anyone. I mean, you got to go through some stuff in the minor leagues. It's 1:00 games on turf in the 100-degree heat in the summer. It's not too fun, but the big league game is a really great environment.
You hit the crowds. Like, I've seen the crowds over in Japan. They're awesome. Is there any one thing that stands out to you about the crowds that maybe American Major League Baseball fans can take and could use? And did you get a nickname while you were over there? Like the station, like did they figure out how to say station in Japanese?
No, I think it was just kind of a given at this point. But no, they have like a chant for every player that they do while you're up to bat. It's really cool. The whole fan base kind of gets behind it. So my name was like Fordo. I was kind of like Ford. But honestly, I think the coolest part was, just how fans stayed at the game. We were playing in Hanshin. We were up 1 game to nothing. So it was the second game. We only had to win 2. And it was like 10-2 in the bottom of the 9th inning, and the whole stadium was still rocking. Like, it was, just a great experience to see the fans still there and like really just backing their team at all times. I probably had some negative things said to me, but I don't know the language, so that was kind of easy to brush off. But it was mainly positive support for the team, which was a nice change of pace.
Love that. Yeah, the vibes are very high there in Japan. Sounds like it. So what would be your message to a player who's considering going overseas to play some ball? I know some guys are initially, afraid of it. Forget the player side of it where you're saying, hey, it might be tougher to readjust yourself. But I think some people are just scared to obviously uproot their fam for a certain amount of time if they've got kids, or go to a foreign place. They don't speak the language, the whole deal. But then almost every player I talk to, especially if they're only there for a season or two, has nothing but great things to say. And we have a ton of players that listen to our show. So what would be your message?
I think Kratz can tell you too. Having played together, I like things that I know. I'm at this point I'm a big homebody, but I like kind of security and feeling like I know things around me. So for me going over, those were my biggest worries going over, was not knowing the culture, not wanting to misstep, and do something to offend anyone. All these things are running through your head because you kind of never been there. And I got there, and within 3 or 4 days, all those tensions were alleviated. I mean, the translators really work hard with you. While they might not be there, when you go home at night, they teach you how to do things. If you have a good group of teammates like I did, you can kind of do things together. I had a few guys, riding the train the first few times to the minor league complex, kind of helped me through that. But, all the life kind of worries went away very quickly. And it was just nice. It was a nice experience. The people are unbelievably nice, very quiet, clean, and, really cool place to be honest with you. It was a great life experience.
Let's be honest. They got the best toilets in the world. Okay, their toilets.
Wow.
I have one in my house. The greatest thing about Japan is the toilets.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. That's all you gotta say. Is
we were like, this warm
that's fine. That's
in the
it.
middle of the night, pretty nice. So it's something that will be going into the house in the future.
We're doing it wrong in most American toilets.
Yes, if you haven't had a Japanese toilet, and if you haven't seen the South Park on Japanese toilets, it's pretty funny, and it's true. But if you don't have one, I'm lucky to have one. It's worth it. Mm-hmm. When it opens up, when you go, when you walk by,
exactly.
Amazing. Amazing. So, and heated seats. I mean, there's a lot of features for this thing. But I didn't think we were talking about that today. But let me ask you, since we're talking about the difference between the toilets in Japan and U.S., what about the baseballs? Did you notice a difference in the baseballs? The stickier? Are they smaller? When you picked one up for the first time, did you say, man, this is just doesn't feel the same?
Definitely a little more tacky, I would say, but not overwhelming. You know how you get some big league balls and they just kind of feel like a smooth rock, and you're like, man, this is going to slip out. I never kind of had that feeling with those balls. Maybe the seam's a little bit higher. Definitely more dead hitting the ball. I would say that. But that's, I think, kind of a new thing Tyler had said about, 2 years ago last year, the ball kind of wasn't as great to hit there. So I don't know if that's just kind of something they're messing with. But yeah, I mean, I think the pitchers that were on our team really liked the ball. Obviously, it's a little bit different. And the pitching is just so different that I think it kind of lends to that ball a little bit. I mean, maybe the radar gun isn't as blown up as much, but heaters have incredible spin rate, and they come out from a different angle than the U.S. I mean, it's obviously not everyone's 6'6" over there and throwing downhill and 100. It's kind of the 6'1" and just kind of ride ball at the top. Splitter's obviously the equalizer, which probably gets some help from that ball too with the bigger seams. But it's the baseball itself definitely different, but not an overwhelming change that I think you would have to accommodate to.
Shuto. What was it? Shuto and Mr. Baseball? The Shuto. Tom Selleck couldn't hit the Shuto.
Splitter?
That's what I'm assuming it was. It wasn't the gyro ball that Daisuke threw up there that you could whack.
True.
Oh, they got they have 10 different names for every pitch. A shoot is a two-seamer that doesn't drop. A two-seamer goes like this. The splitter fork is the same as the two-seamer to me, maybe a little bit slower. I actually sent Judge a pie chart of a guy we were facing over there that day. I think there's like 9 pitches, and I was like, I don't think there's enough fingers for him to put down for this amount of pitches. But it was a great experience. I think pitching translates probably a little easier back to the States than hitting. It's just kind of a different philosophy, but it was cool to see the differences for sure.
That's awesome. It's a good story.
So, okay, we know you didn't face Sasaki, but have you heard of the legend of Roki Sasaki?
TS is really good. So I obviously didn't get to see it in person, so I don't have much comment on it. But Tyler, I think, faced him once or twice, but he said he's very good. And I think what we've seen is a lot of the Japanese pitchers that have come over have had success, and I think it's because they're a touch different than a lot of the guys that are in the U.S. Maybe just kind of splitters are really good generally, and I think it's just a different heater. Even though obviously he lights the radar gun up, but even the guys that are like 94, 95 over there kind of really spin it well. So it's more location than stuff, and it was cool to see the difference and just try to adapt to it.
No, I love that. Well, thanks for the update, dude. Congrats on the championship. Really cool to have on the resume for life. Thanks for joining us, dude.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us, guys.
Appreciate you. See you, Mike. Mike Ford on FT. Be right back. Cue the saxophone. BetMGM futures. Let's look American League West. The Bruce Bochy, Skip Schumaker, Chris Young, etc. led Texas Rangers at plus 170, pretty much neck and neck with the Astros, who are favored at the moment at plus 160. Mariners in a pretty good range at plus 200. Anyone interested in the Ace? Shock in the world at plus 6,600 or not there yet? They've got some good pieces, but the problem is, are they going to actually add to it?
Their home ballpark in West Sacramento.
Could be a home field advantage.
Could be not, though.
Could be not. No, not a play. Too aggressive.
Too much right now,
Hundo
especially with the other 3 teams
6,600.
ahead of them.
Yeah,
with the other 3 teams, if they were in a different division, maybe you'd think. If they were in the NL Central, maybe you could think about it a little more. But with the Astros, Rangers, Mariners in front of them, it's tough. It's a tough road to hoe for the ATHs.
I think my prediction, they'll have one really good half and one will be.
But they do that every year, though.
We just had it. They played well in the second half.
Tough division. I love the plus 200 for the Mariners. I think Scott's jumping all over that. He is already looking at that. He's looking at 2-1. He's like, I get 2-1 money with that rotation. I love it. I can see it. I can see the way you're shaking your head. No,
he's going Mariners, Padres, Peoria,
Mariners, Padres, World Series. Yep, can't teach.
He's actually wants to bet on. He wants to bet on the Angels so bad.
Yeah, their win total. I'm taking the under, which I did this past season, and I crushed it. That was very, very unsweaty. But no, I'm not touching this one. Actually, for my real take, this is not a division that I'm touching to put money down. I don't get enough value out of the Astros, Rangers, or Mariners. The A's are tempting, but let's be real. So, no, I'm good. I'm leaving that one alone. But I'm interested in a bonus code FOUL. If you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app, sign up and deposit at least $10 into your account. Place your first wager, get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. And if that happens, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Be right back with news on Ronald Acuña Jr. and Spencer Strider, not back to start the season with the Braves. Hot corner. So the news is that Acuña and Strider will not be ready for opening day. And this is from Alex Anthopoulos, who leads the front office. So first time he said they won't be ready, though indicated previously it could be a month or two into the season before Acuña is ready, and they'll evaluate as they go along. That's a tweet from David O'Brien from The Athletic. So a lot of Braves fans watch and listen to the show. We also have a great Hammer Territory show, part of the FT Network, if you want more on everything the Braves have been up to. But what do you think about the Braves this offseason? I know some people are like freaking out. I'm thinking, man, they're still good. They're going to be a wild card team at least in my mind. And it's not about how you start the season. It's about how you finish the season. So if they have Acuña and Strider on the roster heading into the playoffs, I'd much rather have that situation brewing. But Timbo asks, if you're talking about the Braves, I'd like to know where you think Evaldi would fit in and if you expect Reynaldo Lopez to continue as a starting pitcher.
Yes, Reynaldo Lopez is going to be a starter.
Mm-hmm.
Will Chris Sale have as good of a year? I don't know. Do they bring back Fried? Isn't Charlie Morton a free agent too?
Yeah, and I don't know if he's
going to
retiring
pitch.
or
I mean,
not.
he does this every time. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know if I'm going to pitch. Oh, here's 1 year, 20. Okay, I'll sign again.
I mean, I don't blame him.
I don't either. It happens every year.
He's got a lot of
they
keys.
need Strider back. They're going to have to find. I mean, Schwellenbach's a dude for him.
Mm-hmm.
Sale, obviously, Lopez. I mean, there's three. No,
They've got a lot of fives in my
Yes.
mind.
their bullpen should be good
Yeah, but
because most of them are back.
right, Canning, Smith, Shawver types. And
Yeah.
there's three
But
or
then
four
you
others.
look at their lineup. I mean, their lineup is going to be better. They didn't hit this year like they can. They had a million injuries. So I think the Braves are in a good spot. Can they catch the Phillies in this division? I mean, not if Phillies go get Soto.
But if they don't, they can. And Kratz, I think they'll probably add a starter. Evaldi's a good name. I wouldn't sleep on Sonny Gray because the Cardinals are probably going to do a little rebuild action. That's got Atlanta written all over it for now because you get him for what, the last 2 years of his deal?
2 years. Yep. I mean, why wouldn't they bring Max Fried back? Because they didn't extend him? Like that ship's completely sailed?
No, it's not completely sailed, but he's going to be expensive. And if they couldn't figure it out up to this point and they re-sign everyone else, I could see him being gone.
But because they re-signed everybody else, they've constantly saved money on the contracts that they have. I think he's done enough. I think what he adds to that rotation is all that they need, because I don't think they're going to go after Burns. I don't think they're in that area of the market. But ultimately, whatever moves they make, I don't know. Maybe it's my reaction to it. They're making the right move. They're constantly like, oh, I like that. Oh, Reynaldo Lopez, like, that's awesome. If it doesn't work out, he was a great bullpen piece. They're just good at what they do.
David, I saw John Middleton. I did the Mets-Phillies series, and when the Mets beat him, I saw him in the tunnel. He's willing to spend anything. His face was as disappointed as I've ever seen anybody. I mean, worse than players, worse than Rob Thompson, worse than anyone walking down that tunnel. He couldn't get out of Citi Field fast enough, and his head was down, and it was one of those people that you looked and you said, he's going for it again. And, hey, good for him if he wants to spend his own money. I mean, eventually there'll be payback, but if he wants to, I want more owners that want to compete. I want teams that want to compete. It's good for players and salaries.
No, I agree. It is good for players and salaries, but I guess that I would put a bigger premium on intelligence versus, reckless spending. And just take a look at some really well-run teams and what they're able to accomplish and do. And it doesn't mean that you're going to win the World Series every year, because even the Dodgers, they've won twice, and we're calling them, a dynasty in the making because they've got money and intelligence. And if you can combine those two things, you are a force to be reckoned with. And I think that John Middleton would be well served in trying a little bit more on the intelligence side, and then adding the fact that he's so reckless with money. I think that would be better for them going forward. It's unreal, the work that has to be done. And the city council in St. Petersburg may put millions of dollars into refurbing Tropicana Field, but for what? For 3 years, and then the building's done with its useful life? If I'm Stuart Sternberg, I want that money put into a new building, and I'll play in a spring training or minor league facility until then.
So you don't think, I agree with you. That's what I've been saying since this happened. You do not think the Rays will ever play, I want to get on the record your prediction, that will the Rays ever play another game at the Trop?
So I've said no, that they will not play another game at the Trop. It's not what MLB or the union would want, but financially it doesn't make sense. Stuart Sternberg has spent decades of sleepless nights trying to not play any more games at the Trop. He's the owner of the Rays, and this gives him the opening he needs to get out of there. And it doesn't mean he's going to North Carolina or New Jersey where he really wants to go, or Montreal or Nashville. It means that they'll stay in Florida because they've got this deal for a new ballpark in St. Pete. But by the way, that's not even done yet. So to go back to your question, I would say the A's and Rays are tied for maximum Surus, which means they just have so much to deal with, and all of it makes them grumpy.
Let's lap hands. Kratz hats quick, and then I'll go over at least one guest we have for tomorrow.
Ubin Double Days. Not even a team anymore. Single A. Best record ever in minor league baseball history.
It's worth something. Keep it for a long time. Alex Vesia is going to join us tomorrow on Foul Territory. And if you feel like we're having too many Dodgers on the show, well, they just won the World Series. I don't think we've had Vesia on the show.
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
I'll be in LA tomorrow, so I'm out.
Oh, true. But you're on Friday.
I'll be there Friday.
Yes. Trevor May joining us tomorrow.
Back to Cali.
We're going to have Pierzynski Friday and Vesia tomorrow. And also my response, if you think we've never had Vesia on. If you think we have too many Dodgers, well, they're really good with the media. They are really friendly with interviews. So they're winning karma points too on top of everything else. If you have a guest that you would like us to ask who is reasonable, we can't get Ohtani, then
Judge, we've tried. Harper, we've tried.
Judge has said no.
Harper, we've tried.
Yeah. But
almost everybody else we've gotten
just about everyone else. But if you have someone that you haven't heard from or you want to hear again, then please send us a note on Instagram, or really the best spot is on the podcast review section on Apple. We'll see you tomorrow.